Good morning. Today is the feast of Saint Scholastica. She was the brother of Saint Benedict, the founder of the Benedictines. So she was the second order Benedictines, the women religious. I'm wearing my gold bling today because it was made by the Benedictines of Mary outside of Kansas City, Missouri. So just a way to remember them and pray for them on their feast day. And Saint Scholastica is the patron saint of thunderstorms, because we have to have a patron saint of everything. She's the patron saint of thunderstorms because one day she and her brother were out, and her brother wanted to get back to the monastery because it was part of his rule. The Benedictine rule is like all of monastic rule is built on the rule of Saint Benedict. And he wanted to get back to the monastery because the rule was that you couldn't be away from the monastery at night. She prayed for a thunderstorm to come, and it did, and he couldn't go back. And so he prayed to God that he would forgive her. But anyway, she's the patron saint of thunderstorms because of that. When I got my cats, Frank and Claire, Father Paul wanted to name them Benedict and Scholastica, which I thought were horrible names for cats, and he said we'd call them Benny and Scully. But it didn't. Yeah, Frank and Claire work much better. Anyway, that's all I got on Saint Scholastica because I want to talk about this first reading. Growing up in the living room, the formal living room, that you only use like once or twice a year for Christmas, and there was this chair that we weren't allowed to touch. The living room is also where I got sent to timeout, and there's these big like spinny rocking chairs, that horrible like 70s kind of like goldish almost fabric that is kind of suede like. Anyway, but there is this one chair in the living room that we were not allowed to sit in. We were not allowed to touch. We were not allowed to look at. It came from our grandpa's house, and it just, you stayed away from that chair. It was there as a decoration only. This past year, going home for Christmas, there's more of us, and we go to sit down at the dining room table, and the table's expanded, and we've got more chairs there. And my brothers and my sister and I notice that not only is the chair that shall not be named or sat upon at the dining room table, but there's a second one. And we're like, whoa, where did the second chair come from? Came from our aunt and uncle who decided to give it to my parents. And more importantly, why are these chairs at the dining room table? We can't sit in them. We can't look at them. And it ended up that because they're smaller chairs, the grandkids were the ones sitting in the chairs, and they're messy, right? So they're going to get food on the upholstery. And we just thought that my parents or my mom really had totally given up on preserving the chairs. But I thought of that when the serpent is asking Eve about this tree, and she says, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden. It's only about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden that God said, you shall not eat it or even touch it lest you die. And so God gives Adam and Eve this one rule, right? Do whatever you want in this garden. You're in paradise. Do whatever you want, but do not eat the fruit from that tree. Just pretend like that tree is not there. Don't look at it. Well, he said don't look at it, so that kind of makes me want to maybe look at the tree, right? Like, why not? Why can't I look at it? What's so special about the tree? Why can't I eat the fruit from the tree? Is it good? Like, is it the best fruit I've ever eaten? Or is it not so good, and that's why he's telling me don't eat from it? And then along comes the serpent. Oh, did God really say that to you? Did he really mean that? Did he really mean you can't eat the fruit? He's just jealous. He thinks that if you eat the fruit, you'll be more like him. Nothing could be further from the truth, right? We eat that forbidden fruit and we're never further from God, right? Because we've separated ourselves. And so Adam and Eve realize in their shame and their nakedness, they realize that they've cut themselves off from God, and so they go and they hide from him, right? It's kind of like a child, right? When he's done something wrong and, mom knows he's done something wrong, and she's calling for him. Timmy, come here. Why is the cat in the dishwasher? And you go and you hide, right? And hide in a logical place, like in your room, in the closet, first place she's going to look. And so here they are hiding from God, like, he can't see us. But he can. He can see everything. He's God. And we recognize that from this moment, our first parents, Adam and Eve, gave us the gift of sin. They gave us the gift of disobedience. They gave us the gift of, well, I'll do what I want. I'll do what I think is best for me. That gift of doubt, right? Well, certainly God didn't mean that, right? I mean, all those things Jesus said, that was 2,000 years ago. He doesn't understand what it's like today, modern world. Maybe that meant something for the people back then, but it's got to mean something different now, right? Certainly God would never condemn anybody, right? God is love. That's what we've been told for so long. God is love. He would never condemn anybody. He would never send anybody to hell. But that serpent, that wise and cunning, wily serpent, slithering around, looking for the destruction of souls. It's not so much God that sends souls to hell. It's more out of that disobedience, questioning God. Yeah, did he really? Yeah, I know better. I'm going to do it my way. I'm smarter. I'm more enlightened. I understand better the circumstances of my life. And we kind of slip away, right? But now we should strive to be faithful. We should strive for holiness. We should strive to do the will of God. But when those moments of doubt come into our minds, especially matters of our faith, the moral life, is it really that bad? And then the slippery slope gets slipperier. Is that a word? Slipperier? Slipperier? Does the Y turn into an I? Slipperier. Okay, it's more slippery. Yeah, that's cheating, though. We have this beautiful language where we can change words and things. But we start thinking, well, if God's not going to get mad at me if I, skip Mass on Sunday once in a while. God's not going to get mad at me if I, start kind of messing up in the moral life. God's not going to get mad at me if I just rob one little bank. It's just a small bank, right? I didn't kill anybody. The bank's insured. They're going to get their money back. And we justify things. So it's a reminder to us that we're called to be obedient to God. Sometimes we don't like being obedient. Sometimes we don't understand why we can't even look at the chair in the living room, why we can't touch it. Sometimes we don't understand why it is that God asks us to do something. Why is it that God leads us through certain times or seasons of our life? Why is it that God allows suffering and sickness and death? We don't understand and we want to change it. But God calls us to just be faithful, to listen to Him, to follow Him, to trust in Him. St. Benedict, St. Scholastica are good examples of that. Right? One of the three hallmarks of the religious life is obedience. And first and foremost, it's obedience to God. So on this feast day of St. Scholastica, let us ask for her intercession that we may continue to be faithful to God, we may continue to strive to do His will, and that we may be protected from the wickedness and snares of the devil, and that we may continue to do God's will in our lives.